What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So stimulus checks, DOGE refund checks, stimulus rebates, what's going on here? What's happening when it comes to this? Are they moving forward with these stimulus checks for the American people? I want to talk a little bit about this, and I'm basing this on a comment that was posted by Judy. Judy, thank you for the comment. It says, what happened to the $5,000 DOGE refund checks? $600 is a laugh in the face. Increase all Social Security recipients $200 per month, and that would certainly help. And so we're going to talk about these items because there's a lot of talk out there right now. You have President Trump saying things. You have Congress people saying things as far as some type of a rebate for the American people. And so what's really going on? Are they seriously considering doing this, or is this just something that they're talking about to change the narrative or change the story? So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys watch this video and you find it informative, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Okay, so let's go ahead. I want to show you guys a timeline just to give you an idea of what's going on when it comes to the different things that have been mentioned just in the last 6 months. And so looking at the title here, it says President Trump talks about stimulus. Okay, so let's look at the DOGE dividend checks. It says savings based. Now, President Trump talked about this on February 20th, okay, considering returning 20% of DOGE savings to Americans. Now, the plan was to save $2 trillion in spending. So they were going to save $2 trillion of government spending. And then they were going to provide these DOGE dividend, these stimulus checks to the American people. It'd be about $5,000 per household, per tax-paying household. That's what they were saying. Now, that was the initial plan. However, they had to revise that because they weren't going to be able to save $2 trillion, so they revised it down to $1 trillion. They said, okay, we're going to be able to save $1 trillion, then we'll provide dividend checks as a result of that. Well, then they revised that again from $1 trillion in savings to about 150 billion. And now they're around 150 billion, 200 billion. That's what we're hearing about right now as far as savings. And so you see they went from 2 trillion in savings to now down to about 200 billion. And so we really haven't heard much about these dividend checks since then, because once they realized we're not going to be able to save 2 trillion, so we're not going to be able to provide this 5,000 per household, and let alone if it was even 1 trillion, that would be what, 2,500 per household. But now that we're down to 200 billion, that's not a lot. And mind you, you can't just say, okay, we're going to save money and then we'll provide these dividend checks. They wanted to use that money for the big, beautiful bill. But then when they pass the big, beautiful bill, that's going to add from $3 to $4 trillion to our national debt over 10 years. And so it's not going to work when it comes to these dividend checks. They don't have the money to send out dividend checks. And so that's where we are right now. That's why you don't hear politicians talk about it anymore, because there's nothing to talk about. They're not going to be able to provide that for the American people. Now, let's take a look at the tariff rebates. We'll talk a little bit about that. This is the latest. This is what we've been just hearing about. This is going to be tariff funded. And they talked about this, or at least the president talked about this, July 25th of 2025. So this is very, very recent, just last week. And they're considering rebate checks, and they're basing this on the tariff revenue. So the money that they bring in with regards to tariffs, that is the money that they're going to be able to use to send out these rebate checks to the American people. They're saying $600 per person. So if you're a couple, that would be $1,200. And if you have kids, let's say you have 2 kids, that could be up to $2,400 that you would receive as a rebate when it comes to tariffs. Now, there's some issues with this, and I talked about this before. And so first off, when it comes to tariffs, who pays the tariffs? The consumer is going to pay the tariffs ultimately, because you're going to have businesses in the U.S. that are going to be purchasing these products from other parts of the world. And guess what? The business has to pay the tariff. So that money will go to the federal government. The federal government will say, this is great. We have $150 billion, or at least that's what they're saying they have right now, $150 billion that we've collected from tariffs that's coming from U.S. companies. And those U.S. companies will say, okay, well, we could eat a little bit of it, but we're not going to eat it all. We're going to pass it on to the consumer. And so they pass it on to the consumer. They just raise the price of their products. We pay more, but the president is saying, well, we're going to provide this rebate because we're pulling in all this money from U.S. companies. We're pulling in all this money, so we're going to provide you a rebate of $600. Now, I've had some people say, and you saw here, some people are saying, $600, that's not enough. Why aren't you offering more? Well, some politicians right now they've already talked about this. They don't think any money should be going to the American people. This money should be going to pay down our debt. That's what they're saying. But we just saw the big, beautiful bill pass. And what do? They had tax cuts for the American people and all this stuff, mainly helping wealthy people. And then they made cuts to Medicaid and some other programs. But this is a tax. This tariff that we're talking about right now, companies are paying for this. They're going to pass it on to the consumers. So this is an extra tax that we're going to be paying to the federal government. And that's going to cause prices to go up. And so you just pass this big, beautiful bill with tax cuts, and then you're going to make us pay taxes on the back end because now we're going to be paying more for these products. And so that's the reality of what we're seeing right now. But will this work? Will we have enough politicians in Congress that will come together and move this forward? Josh Hawley, Senator Hawley, is the one that introduced this into the Senate. But in my opinion, I don't really think it's going to go anywhere because you have fiscally conservative Republicans that are not going to go for this. And then you have some Democrats that will look at this and say, I don't think this is going to be a good idea as well. And the president is out there saying this would be great. But a lot of politicians realize the reality here. It's not going to be much for the American people. And there are other obligations. This is not extra money. This is not a surplus. We are still in debt. And we're still in a deficit right now. We're deficit spending as we speak. And so right now, Congress doesn't have the appetite to move forward with some type of legislation like this. And then on top of that, this is not an election year. Next year, maybe we will see some type of stimulus for the American people. But right now, there's no incentive for politicians to move forward with some type of stimulus. The only incentive or the only person that's really calling for this is the president. And the reason why he's probably calling for this is because he wants to change the story. If he's getting bad press, if we're looking at the Epstein files and the situation with immigration and all of that, he might want to change that story. And he can change that story by saying, look, this is what I'm going to provide for the American people. His poll numbers are down right now. And he might think that providing this for the American people will improve his poll numbers. But will Congress go along with this? At this point, I don't think they will. And so the president can talk about this as much as he wants, but in reality, Congress is going to have to pass a bill in both the House and the Senate and send it to the president in order for him to sign off on it. And with that big, beautiful bill, they could have added some stuff like that to the big, beautiful bill. They chose not to. And the big, beautiful bill will probably be the only major legislation that we'll see before the 2026 midterms. And so at this point, I think this is just all talk. And we'll probably hear some more ways that they can, provide some type of stimulus for the American people. We'll probably hear more of that. But right now, there's no appetite in Congress. And so there's really no path forward for something like this. But I want to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.